So welcome to Plan 9 Crunch. I'm Doug Gibson, and today it is Friday the 13th, and appropriately, we have horror author Joe Overbay on with us today. Now, Joe has written two collections of horror right now. One is called War of the Monsters, Other Trilogy of Blood, and we're going to discuss the three novellas that are in those collections. We'll talk about his new book coming out later this year. And I also want to find out, Joe is like me. He is basically almost the same age, and we grew up watching these movies. Joe might have been more into it when I was a kid, all right? Based on our earlier conversation. But I want to find out how these books inspired you, and how you do research to write and pay homage to these books, and also create your own work from them. So, Joe, the first question is, tell me what got you into writing these books. By the way, Joe is published by Arcane Shadows Press. You can get him at Amazon, okay? And we'll have links. All right, Joe.
Plug. I basically started when I was in grammar school, and I started writing then. And my teachers used to love my stories, especially my 8th grade teacher. He wanted me to go into a writing school instead of high school, but my mom and dad didn't have enough money.
Mm-hmm.
So I was forced to go to Eastside High School. And, my literary, I didn't write that much in those 4 years.
But you read Famous Monsters, right? And things like that, right?
Oh, yes. Of course. I'm Uncle Forey's Bible, I call it. But I didn't write as much during those 4 years, and then I went to work, and the writing slacked off for several decades, and then I was forced into retirement. That's when it started up again, when it was laid up.
How long ago was that?
2018.
2018, huh?
Yeah. And believe it or not, my first 3 books were written the same time I was doing another one.
No kidding.
And because I had to, the other one was I was so engrossed into it, I had to take time off from it,
mm-hmm.
and revisit, my childhood. And that's where those my first 3 came out: Trilogy of Blood and War of the Monsters. And as far as doing research, my only research is Famous Monsters and the movies.
But you had to revisit the movies in 2018 again to probably get some ideas?
Yeah. I basically went through the whole Universal canon. But the first story in Trilogy of Blood, Night of the Death Moon, I wrote that story after I binged watched The Devil Rides Out and Curse of the Werewolf.
Okay, that's interesting, because that's about a woman that's about a cop who's discovering that there's potentially a coven and werewolves coming, right? And he's trying to stop. Yeah, yep. But I want to ask you something. You used the name Davis Whitlock as the heavy. Have you ever seen the movie with Lon Chaney called Witchcraft?
Yeah, I got that.
So that came from
my Lon Chaney's box set. Yeah.
Okay, so the Whitlock probably came from the Whitlock family in Witchcraft, right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I guessed right when I read that.
That's where I get some of my names from. It's from the movies, and I said, okay, what would happen if a demon-possessed warlock had a pack of screaming werewolves, and what would happen to a small town in Jacksonville, Florida, if this happened? And up comes Morgan Sheffield, my hero.
That's it's a great short story. And let me go back a little bit, because I read all 3 of them this morning again. Let's see where the second one. Tell me who. Zana, Mistress of the Damned. Okay.
Dracula's daughter.
Yeah, and so did you get that from the Did you get the germ of the idea, the gem of the idea from Dracula's Daughter, or are there any other?
No, no,
I didn't
no.
think so.
Because my version of her isn't the one we see in the movies. Because don't get me wrong, that woman is pretty, and I forget her name off the top of my head. If you can help me.
Well, I know who you're talking about. She's classic in the movie, and of course, I'm your age too, so I forget these things on the spur of the moment. But,
Yeah, right.
but this woman, this is a story of unrequited love, right?
Yeah, because she is not only Dracula's daughter, she is also Satan's wife.
Mm-hmm.
And some kind of portal is put up where she can't get back to him, and he can't get to her. So she's stuck on Earth, and and like I said in the synopsis, pity and pray for the people that she runs into.
Well, these guys, are just well, I don't want to give too much of the book away, but she's pretty quick, right, when she wants to take something.
Oh yeah, she is a cross between. When I was thinking of her, that character, I was thinking of a mix of Barbara Steele and Linda Carter.
Interesting. Barbara Steele, I can see. Linda Carter, that's interesting.
Well, I'm not going for Linda Carter's body.
Yeah, she was. Well, when I was 13, I enjoyed Wonder Woman, that's for sure.
Oh, I had that poster on my wall too.
Now, did you ever think of the idea of? Do you know what Lilith is in lore?
Oh, Lilith.
The wife of Satan.
Standpoint, yes.
Yeah, because I was thinking I saw some of that in her also. Maybe I don't know.
I was thinking about the way Lilith dresses.
Mm-hmm.
Very provocative. That's why, what she does, because she is the ultimate. I hope I could say this, bitch.
Yeah, she is. I have a friend who wrote a trilogy of novels, basically based on Lilith in the 21st century. It's quite interesting.
Oh, I'm going to have to look that one up.
I'll send you a link later. The book's called The Lady Mephistopheles, the first book. But, okay, so I'm trying to think of what I want to say now, because there's one more thing I want to say about this, but I don't want to give away the plot too much. Okay, she sort of has a friend who lives with her, who I don't know if she's fully aware of what Zania really is, but
yeah, and she is a witch.
Yeah.
She belongs to a coven, yeah.
Yeah, and now I'll go to another story here called Latos, Lord of the Undead, which to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, to a large extent is a retelling of Son of Dracula.
Yep, amen to that. I took freedom with that, and I put my own characters in it. Latos is the son of Dracula, and Latos is also the name John Carradine took in the two House movies.
Yes, that's true.
And I took a lot from that and added my own feel to it, and I made it more violent.
Yeah, definitely.
And the doctor, I ticked off my daughter at, because she really loved the doctor, and I'm not going to say anything.
Well,
give it away.
So you're a fan of Son of Dracula, the film, then, right?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I love Chaney.
Chaney's Dracula is interesting because he seems to be more aggressive, right, than the other Draculas.
Yeah, he is a stepping stone up to Christopher Lee.
Good point, because Lee is that way too, isn't he?
But, I want to point out, though, a very underrated Dracula, and tell me if I'm wrong, was Francis Lederer.
Oh, Lederer in Return of Dracula is really good. Yes, I agree with you. But go on.
But you're right. Chaney was more aggressive. He was that stepping stone up to the very violent and aggressive Christopher Lee version of Dracula.
You know what's interesting, though? Return of Dracula is a film I watch occasionally because you can watch it for free on ScreenPix, which is a cable channel. But every time I watch that movie, I know I'm watching a remake of Shadow of a Doubt. If you didn't know that, you ought to watch Shadow of a Doubt. the
Shadow of a
Alfred
Doubt.
Hitchcock movie where the
Okay.
woman knows that her uncle is a killer. In this movie, he comes and she knows he's a vampire for most of the movie. I often wondered if the producers of Shadow of the Doubt had a conversation with the producers of Return of Dracula. It's just,
He might have. He might have.
but Lederer is a good, solid
Wait.
actor. You know, I kind of wish that Lugosi had been old enough to play that role, but he was already dead this time, I think, right?
What they did, what Universal did to Bella was atrocious. You know, they could have done more for him than what they did. You know, but when he turned down the role of the monster, that started the ball rolling between him and Universal, I believe.
Oh, I agree that Universal didn't treat Bela very well, and Bob Kramer has told me that too in our conversations, his biographer. Part of me also realizes, though, that if Bela Lugosi had not received the Dracula role, okay, what would have been his Hollywood career other than character roles, perhaps, all right?
That's the possibility there, yeah.
Because I think of an actor, I can't remember his name now, called Paul Lucas, who is Hungarian, who no one knows who he is now. He was probably in more movies than Lugosi, but Lugosi achieved immortality from being in Dracula, essentially.
Yeah, it wasn't for Dracula. That's why Bella always said Dracula never dies.
Yeah, he never dies. Yeah, and
he never died.
You got some people in Arcane Shadows Press who also write. We got Christopher R. Gauthier, who writes his Dracula Never Dies trilogy. The second book's coming out.
I love Christopher's work.
Yeah, Christopher's work reminds me of a Primal Scream. All right.
Yeah, it does. I tell you what, I read that book twice. Mm-hmm. I had to read it twice.
Yeah, because it's a great book.
Yeah, it is.
And Brad Braddock has written prequels to Son of Frankenstein and also to White Zombie, which I like. He's the publisher, right?
Yeah, I got both. I got both of those books in my library.
And they're good writers. They have other writers, and you're a great writer too. So I'm always rooting for Arcane Shadows Press. All right, believe me. We had the Ed Wood book come out recently, which was nice.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was your story was excellent.
But you're also in that story, right?
Yes, mine was Children of the Sun. I did a story for Vampira.
Yeah, that was great. And that book, and I don't consider mine to be the best story, believe me, but that book won a Rondo. Fantastic accomplishment. And Chris,
we all deserve a pat on the back for that, but the ones who really need a pat on the back for that were Brad and Kurt McCoy.
Yeah, they edited it, right, and put it together.
Yeah.
And they had good stories, too. Now, let's go to your other book, War of the Monsters. Now, The first book is kind of I don't want to give too much away, but it's a story of Lawrence Talbot, but also Frankenstein. And
Frankenstein's monster. Let's get it right.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I shouldn't say Frankenstein. It's Frankenstein's monster. You're absolutely right there. But Frankenstein's monster can talk. Of course, he does. He learns to talk in the second book, right? Second movie, Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
But what I like is your book has a Shelley touch in the fact that he desperately wants to be loved. All right. He desperately wants to find people who care about him.
He's looking for people that he can call friend.
Friend, yeah. And I find it very interesting in the beginning. He wants to protect Lawrence Talbot, okay? But he thinks that he can go to Talbot's father and the father will help him. But Talbot says, no, my father will want to do what?
Kill him.
Kill him, right? Yeah. And it's just, the monster is very powerful in your book, okay?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And so I don't want to give away the plot, so I'm trying to avoid giving away the plot. But You describe who is the most evil character in these two stories. They comprise two stories, in your opinion, because you call him the most evil in your book in the stories. It's Count.
Uh, are you talking about the first two stories or just that one story in particular?
Well, the story where Count Dracula is in.
Oh well, yeah, Dracula is the most evil son of a bitch I have
That's what.
ever read.
And I'm interested because I want to know in your studies, you're watching the movies, how you have Dracula as being the most evil person, yet you see parts of humanity in Frankenstein and the Wolfman, right?
Oh yes, because Lawrence didn't ask to become what he is, and he feels sorry for what he does. So you got to have empathy for him. And the monster didn't ask to be here. And through a chain of misfortunes, he got labeled a monster. He has a heart. I believe he has a soul. So I tried to put that in those two stories.
And I think that's very interesting. Because I agree with you, actually, that Dracula would be the most evil. But I think many people debate who's the worst of the monsters. And we have a clear winner in your books, right there.
Well, yeah, Duel of Monsters is my take on Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. And I got a lot of flack for the winner. I'm not going to tell you who wins.
No, don't tell us, no.
No, but I got a lot of flack from some people, and I got a lot of flack from people of what I did to Maliba and Ilanka.
Well, what you're saying is in your stories that if a person becomes a vampire, am I correct in saying there's basically no hope for them anymore?
No, no. Once Dracula gets his fangs into you, forget it.
So you cannot come back if you become a vampire and establish a humanity.
You can come back and be as evil as he is.
Yeah, I meant you can't come back with a humane persona.
No. The vampire bite from him is like a virus.
Because that's interesting, and I agree with you. But Frank, I don't know if you know who Frank Delestrito is, right? Do you know him?
Yeah, I know him. Yeah.
Okay, he wrote a book called A Werewolf Remembers, which is a testament of Lawrence Talbot. I recommend it. But he has sometimes you know how the Universal monster movies don't really have continuity sometimes?
No, they don't.
Yeah. So when these guys die, Frank has them going into some netherworld, okay? Where they just sit there and watching other people leave, going to heaven or hell, right? But they're stuck there. And in Frank's book, also the one person who has no humanity of the three is basically the vampire. I used to have a little more sympathy for the vampire because of what Lugosi says, to die, to be really dead, it must be glorious in the book, in the movie. But I agree with you. If you had to pick those three, probably the worst is the vampire.
Yeah, the worst. Yeah, the worst is the vampire. I messed around with the Talbot legacy quite a bit after that.
Who do you think? who is your favorite Dracula?
My favorite Dracula? Oh, Chris is going to kill me. Oh God! Yeah, I always think of Bella, and I always will think of Bella when that name is uttered. But I'd have to give you my top three. My top three, no, four rather, would be Bela Lugosi, Christopher Lee, Francis Lederer, and Jack Palance.
So Jack Palance was in the Dracula that was made by the guy who created the TV soap opera. What's that guy's name? I can't remember now.
Dan Curtis.
Dan Curtis, yeah. Dan Curtis, did he do Kolchak and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, Curtis is a pretty good guy. I guess I would. Trying to think. I might throw Chaney in there over Palance, but I do like Palance. Okay, he's good. He's good. Who's your favorite
Oh
Frankenstein?
yeah. Who's my favorite Frankenstein?
Yeah,
Boris.
Boris. Yeah, yeah.
Hands down, Boris. I'm sorry. Boris.
You know, it's interesting as a boomer like me. All right, we don't. We were. Our idea of Frankenstein came from watching Glenn Strange and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, where he goes like this. What's
What?
Yeah, go
I
on.
beg to differ. I beg to differ because the very first Frankenstein film I saw was the Karloff one. I didn't see Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein until later on.
Well, maybe guys in their 70s might, because I think that was more available at that time period. But if you watch the original Frankenstein, you see a man who's using his entire body as almost like an adult newborn, moving fast and quick, and you don't have the hunching like this in Frankenstein. Which
Wait, Lugosi's got a lot to do with that too, because he had the outstretched arms and a stiff walk.
but he was supposed to be blind.
That's the thing. Is
No one knows
continuity,
that. Yeah.
you know, and it goes back to me saying again, if they kept that movie the way it was with the continuity with him being blind and everything, it would have been a better movie.
I think so. I also think that. No, I'm not going to say this. I'm not going to say what I thought about Kurt Sidemark, so I won't say it. Okay. It's just, at least he got to play Frankenstein. Put it that way. But if you watch Ghost of Frankenstein, his voice is perfectly fine to me as the monster. Right?
Well, if you believe what you heard, now I heard two different stories. I heard that they laughed because of Bella talking, but then I also heard that the people didn't like it because, okay, we're going through World War II and Hitler was talking about.
Now that is interesting. I hadn't thought of that at all.
The rhetoric that the monster was talking sounded a lot like Hitler. So those are the two stories. You take your pick, which one you want to believe.
That's fascinating. Well, the movie made a lot of money regardless.
Oh, hell yeah.
I have an affinity for Hungary, and I can't remember the actress' name, but she's a Hungarian actress that was pretty good in that movie too. What was her name? Well,
the one who played the daughter?
Yeah.
Ilanka
What?
Ilanka Massey.
Thank you. See, I try to tell myself before doing a video, don't try to say something you can't remember, right?
That's okay, but you're human.
Yeah.
You're human, but you got to remember the age. The age kicks in too once in a while. We do get senile.
That is true. Oh, there is one more thing about Son of Dracula that you sort of capture in your novella also that I think is one of the most emotional moments in Universal Horror. It's when the look on Frank's face when he sets his fiancée on fire at the end.
Well, I didn't use the name of Frank. I used the name
I know
of
you used a
Tom.
different name, but the same character essentially. Yeah.
Yeah. And I tried to change it up a little bit because I want to put my own
Thing on it, yeah.
like create my own anthology with it. Like I changed the girl's name to Olivia,
Mm-hmm.
and I added Morgan Sheffield,
Exactly.
the cop from the first story.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it a little bit more violent. The way he kills the doctor.
Well, you don't have the code that they had back then, right?
No, we don't have that code. We can do what we want.
Now, tell me a little bit about the third long novella called The Mummy Returns. All right.
Oh, The Mummy Reborn.
Did I say it is reborn? I apologize.
I remember when I told Brad I was going to write that. And I told him I was going to try to take every character from the Karloff mummy all the way up to the last Cheney mummy. And I think I succeeded to a point.
Well,
And I even Ardith Bay and Imhotep are two different people.
yeah, they are.
They're yeah. I get them as two separate characters. And again, I got a lot of flack for that, and I'm not going to say it because it'll ruin the story for everybody. But I got a lot of flack for what I did to the mummy.
Well,
Yeah, if you get,
I find the story so interesting because it reaches a stage where the world is about to be destroyed. All right, in this story, because the priests of was it the priests of Karnak and the priests, are trying to get their revenge and everything, and you've got Karis out there. Karis is more. Tell me more about Karis in this one.
well, Karis, I got a lot of flack for because one of my friends, Lewis, who lives in Patterson, he said, I love your book, I love the story, but you turned the mummy into a superhero.
Yeah.
I said, and he didn't. A lot of people think of the Shambling mummy. I wasn't when I was writing that story. I was thinking of the Christopher Lee mummy.
The Christopher Lee mummy is perhaps the strongest mummy I've seen, the most aggressive mummy I've seen in those movies. He really
Yeah,
is.
because I saw that point too. Because you know, to me, that mummy out of all, and I'm not taking anything away from Karloff. I'm not taking anything away from Cheney or any of the other Hammer mummy movies, but Christopher Lee's mummy was the strongest and by far the most likable, as a character.
I just watched it on Svengoolie last week again. I think it was on.
I watched it for his birthday.
Yeah.
I had a little double feature. I was going between Christopher Lee and Vincent Price movies all day.
That'd be a lot of fun. I like to watch on Price. I love to watch the movie. What is it called? It's not the one everybody's heard of, but Tower of London. But I love the Price version in 1961 or two. Even though Tower of London, the Universal film, is wonderful too. I just love the cheaper one.
Oh yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Because he's
I think
so
I have
over the
that one.
top, in that movie.
Yeah.
Well, can I ask you a question about? You talked about Boris Karloff. Boris Karloff in The Mummy is fantastic. The movie. I think Carl Freund directed it, right? And so it's a classic, particularly that opening scene where the guy goes insane. When he sees him. Yeah, and you touch on those things. But why do you think that Karis is more iconic than Imhotep today?
Oh,
Because I've been wondering that.
Karis was the mummy to me. I like the mummy that Karloff did, but Imhotep, I don't know whether it's because the later mummies turned into the killing machines,
Yeah,
and the Karloff mummy's so laid back he does everything by magic.
it's a good point.
He does all the magic, but I like the killing machine mummy better than the guy.
I think you're touching on why he's more iconic. In fact, the Christopher Lee is called Karis or something like that, right? He's not called Imhotep. So, but I'll tell you something. Boris Karloff as Ardith Bay is pretty frightening looking if you look closely at him.
Oh heck! Oh yeah, I'm not taking anything away from that. It was a scary makeup that Jack Pierce had, and the story was impeccable. But I, as a kid, gravitated to the other mummies.
I think I did too. I think it's. Well, I want to ask you one more thing now. Well, actually, a couple more questions. But tell us about Demon in the View, a book coming out later this year, probably. All right.
Oh my! That's sitting up waiting to be edited by my buddy Josh Devore. It's a John Talbot story.
Okay. Don't have to give away too much, but give us what are our appetites, all right?
It's a cross between Psycho and Diary of a Madman. You know, you only see John Talbot for a brief second in a portrait, and you never find out what he died of. So I said, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna give him a backstory, and you're gonna know the reason why Larry had to come home. And when you get to the epilogue of this story, it hooks up right with the Wolfman.
Oh, fantastic!
So and then my other book that's supposed to be uploading as we speak, Rise of the Beast. That time frame is the same as the Ghost of Frankenstein. And again, when you come to the epilogue, you'll know where I'm going with that.
Now, Rise of the Beast is about to come out then, right?
Yeah, Rise of the Beast. We're having problems with Amazon uploading it.
Yeah, Amazon can be a problem.
Yeah, Brad is. I even tried calling him up, and they said since it's under Brad's, letterhead, he would have to do the calling. So I said, okay. So I called Brad and told him they won't tell me nothing. So you're gonna have to sick him, boy. So, but that's coming out.
Give us an idea. Give our listeners, our viewers, an idea of how it is to write this book. How many hours a day do you spend? How long does it go? How many drafts?
With Rise of the Beast, it took me 3 drafts to get the right story before I handed it over to Josh. And I revisit the movies, and I really like Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, but as a sequel to the Wolfman, no. I wanted to do my own sequel, and I'm hoping that everybody enjoys it. And I did put some Peyton Place soap opera stuff in it. So I hope that doesn't bore my audience half to death, because you find out some dirt on John Talbot. Sir John, Larry's father. You find some dirt on him.
Do you write for an hour a day or 2 hours a day or in spurts?
Sometimes 2 to 3 hours.
2 to 3 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was writing. I'm on my 3rd chapter of another book already.
Wow.
And I wrote the first 2 chapters while my wife was in Space Farms. Walking around. I sat out in the Jeep and I said, "Honey, you go walk. I gotta write this. I gotta get this down." So there I am with my phone dictating into the phone.
So you dictate the text.
Yeah, I dictate into the phone.
Wow.
I have the Google Docs app on the phone. I get an idea. I go to the phone. Okay, Love's Dark Embrace. Boom. And I add on to it.
Does it work? Like, can you say period and stuff like that? Start a new sentence?
Yeah, the only thing I got to put in are quotation marks, because every time I say quotation mark, it'll write out quotation mark. The only thing I don't have to do is periods, question marks, exclamation points. The rest of it, beautiful.
I want to start doing that because I've been thinking of trying to use voice activation, and to me it just drives me crazy because I say something I don't want to say. What do you say? Do you say remove or something? I don't.
No. What I have to manually remove something.
Okay.
Because bring in the case in point, and sometimes you got the word like cars. They would spell it cars, us. Okay, so okay, get rid of that. Ananka, they would mess up her name and
So
Imhotep.
you have a
If
lot
it
of
comes to
patience that I may not have. I have to develop more patience, I think.
it takes a lot off your fingers, I'll tell you. It
Yeah,
takes a
because I
lot
don't
off.
like, my eyes are 63, 62, almost 62 years old. And to me, it's the eyes that are so hard. Um, how many
Well, no,
short
me.
stories? Oh, go on. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go
Well, I just
ahead.
want to say, how many short stories have you written? I know you wrote for the Ed Wood anthology.
Uh, I tell you the truth. I got a volume of them uh, that I'm thinking about putting out, but I was hoping Brad would want to do another anthology of ghost stories or something. I got something in my docs called Tales from the Beyond,
Wow.
and they're all ghost stories.
Wow, that'd be cool. You know,
You know,
forgive me for not knowing the answer to this, but did you write for the Monogram anthology?
no, no, I didn't. No.
Did you write for the one that was published by the not Arcane
Oh,
Shadows?
it's yours? No, no.
No.
You see,
Okay.
I found out about those books through Chris,
Yeah. Okay.
and that's how Chris and I started talking, and he introduced me to Brad because he found out I liked to write. I
Yeah.
was writing,
That's cool. That's a
and
great way.
yeah, he was nice enough to give me Brad's information, his phone number, and everything. I called Brad up, introduced myself, and the rest is history.
We interviewed Brad last fall. If you haven't had a chance to
Yeah, I
look at.
saw that one. That was a good interview.
Yeah, he was. He. I love his rustic lifestyle out there.
Oh yeah, he just posted a picture of a snake
Yeah, I
in the
saw
grass,
that on Facebook. Yeah.
and I put down. They say it tastes just like chicken, right?
I saw that actually. Now you're from New Jersey, right?
Yeah, but my heart is down south with my father's people,
Where's
uh,
that? Where's that?
Oak Valley, Tennessee.
Tennessee, huh? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I'm a country boy. My father used to crack me up. My grandfather used to crack me up. He said, "Your dad married the enemy. He's a
Yankee.
rebel, and he married a Yankee."
You know, my father was born in northern Alabama, but
Oh,
he went to Southern California after the war and married my mother. So I'm a California kid, although I live in Ogden, Utah now. Yeah.
yeah. When I was what was it? We moved from. He moved up here, married my mother. We were in Midland Park, and then we moved to Patterson, New Jersey, and that's where I spent most of my childhood, right there.
Now you have two books written right now, published. You have two
Yeah,
books about to be published coming up this year, and one you're working on, right?
yeah. If you read my story, Children of the Sun, in Ed Wood, there was a character, um, Anton Wojtek, the vampire, that made Vanessa, the vampire character, into a vampire. He's getting his own book, and it's called Love's Dark Embrace. And my catchphrase for that one is be prepared to meet the most evil, bloodlusting vampire since Dracula.
Oh, that'd be great. I'm looking forward to it. So I think you're going to be writing for a long time, won't you? Right?
Oh, yes. I told Brad I'm like Karloff was in The Body Snatcher. You'll never be rid of me. You'll never.
Oh, that's cool. Well, listen, this has been fun. I want to say something I always say at the end. Okay, we're Plan 9 Crunch. Okay, we're on YouTube. My son says I shouldn't do this, but subscribe to us, all right? And we are on TikTok also at Plan 9 Crunch. And the blog is plan9crunch.com. And let's see, one more place. On Facebook is Plan 9 Crunch Podcast and Blog. We've had Joe Overbay today, and we really enjoyed it. And we're going to put all your books as links and keep writing because we love your stuff. And I appreciate this opportunity to finally meet you. What I love about this place is I get to talk to authors I read, all right, and get to know them. And that is a lot of fun.
That is a bonus.
Yeah.
And thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. The last thing I say all the time is, that's a wrap.